because it's so easy to stay in our crocodile brain and point the finger and say, this is all bad, when in reality, we need to say, well, what would it look like if this environment was healthy? What would that look like? And within that, what do I have control over? Can I bring any of that in my department? We end up filling in those gaps where we could be relaxing. Most of us end up filling in those times with other productivity tasks, like it's just a task. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do this. And so we have to get a grip. Part of that reason is that we are designed and created to create, to innovate. Welcome back, or welcome to the Conscious Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Julie Hawley, a wish fulfillment coach and seasoned commercial real estate investor. Today, we're talking about why you don't need to chase that 4-hour work week and what to do instead. But before we dive into that, I wanted to make sure you knew that I am personally inviting you to come hang out with me and other conscious investors at the Conscious Investor Growth Summit in March of 2025. Yes, March 6th through 9th, we're going to be hanging out at the Coeur d'Alene Resort, but we're not just going to be there. And this is the third event. So if you were at the event last year, you know I like to get out of the convention center and out in different venues and spaces because it's invigorating and fun. And so this year, the third event, I'm so excited. There's even more planned. In fact, I thought, how am I ever going to kind of one up the previous event? Every year I wonder this. And then this year, as I curated this year's speaker lineup, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is pure fire. And let me tell you, conscious investor, you don't want to miss out. I don't mean this. I say this cautiously, but I'm like, oh, you will have FOMO. Okay. So this is year 3 of the event, and it is focused on creating such a massive impact in your life. Remember, tickets are capped at 150. The super early bird tickets are probably sold out by the time this episode comes out, but you can still grab an early bird ticket, which is still not a full price ticket. You might remember from past episodes of me talking about this is that I'm not going to play the whole flash sale discount code game. I'm not doing that. I respect you, conscious investor. You are an amazing, highly ambitious, smart, and capable person. Mark your calendar, buy your ticket now. It is the lowest price it's going to be. I'm not going to be throwing little carrots or anything your way. I'm just going to say, hey, when these tickets are gone, they're gone. So head on over to consciousinvestorgrowthsummit.com, pick up your tickets today. Okay, let's talk about this whole 4-hour work week. And I don't mean that as, I wanted to say this right now, I don't mean that as a slight against the book 4-hour work week or other productivity books that encourage us to have strong practices that free us so that we can step into the life we want. But I will explain a little bit more in a moment as to some of the caveats with that. But let me share with you briefly why this came up as an episode. So I listened to Founders Podcast. You've probably heard me mention this podcast. It's so phenomenal. It's all biographies of founders of massive companies. And as I've listened to Founders Podcast for about the past year, I have noticed a very consistent theme. Founders of the largest companies, founders of the most successful companies, they don't leave their companies. They stick around, usually until they die. Like, wow, they are dedicated. And there's a lot that we can learn from that. So let me just give you a few names. Walt Disney. He founded Disney and he stayed with Disney until the end. Sam Walton, founder of Walmart. Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's. Estee Lauder, founder of Estee Lauder Cosmetics. Both David Packard and William Hewitt, they both stayed with HP until they passed away. Ingvar Kamprad, I hope not saying his last name correctly, but he founded IKEA. at age 17, by the way, and he stayed with the company until he passed away. Steve Jobs, we know that he left, but he didn't leave and go sip, cocktails on the beach, somewhere warm and tropical. He went and actually did a completely different project before returning back to Apple. Conrad Hilton, Hilton Hotels, that one was kind of obvious. And so you see this pattern, right? These founders of these companies that we recognize, and we probably appreciate several of those companies. And those founders stuck around. There's something to be learned from that. And I know that we have technology, and technology is inventions and innovations. They are all supposed to free us up so that we can have a little more rest, a little more relaxation and such. But have we noticed a pattern? Conscious investor, do we actually end up resting more because we have smartphones and we have says no one ever, right? Most of these technological advancements have not actually freed us up. We end up filling in those gaps where we could be relaxing. Most of us end up filling in those times with other productivity tasks, like it's just a task. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do this. And so we have to get a grip. Part of that part of that reason is that we are designed and created to create, to innovate. And so the other element of this, that's the pushback that I have, and I was listening to Michael Gervais' podcast recently, and one of his guests was talking about this concept where we are designed for greatness. And I completely agree with that concept. We are designed for greatness. We're not designed to be mediocre. And so, sure, we have all of these technological advancements that should free up our time, make things easier, and we don't utilize that for that purpose. And so we fill it in with things, and it's kind of like junk food, right? It's like we know we need to eat something. We're hungry. We're on the go. We're doing all those productive things that we need to do on the to-do list, which, by the way, I'm going to teach you how to get rid of the to-do list. I won't, but Time Boss will. And so here we are going through the motions, and then, oh man, I'm hungry. I've got meetings. What am I going to do? I'm going to zip through, drive through, and just grab something fast. Or, I'm going to buzz into the quick store, the little gas station store, and pick up something. And so we fill ourselves with these snacks, with these foods that don't have the nutritional staying power that our bodies actually need. Well, the same is true for our time. So technology, all these advancements, they open up our time to where we can have more time. But instead of filling in our time with things of meaning and substance and value, instead of doing that, we're feasting on junk food. We're sitting around, we're scrolling senselessly, mindlessly, we're playing senseless games, and and I'm picking on all of that, I get it, but it's kind of the low-hanging fruit, and I think we can all relate to that. But instead of filling our time with something that is actually going to be a foundation, something that we can build on, we're just kind of doing the junk food thing, with our time. And so we are designed for greatness. We are designed to improve things. We're designed to contribute, and we're designed to actually pursue meaning in our lives. Now, you've heard me say this before, conscious investor. You don't have to become a podcaster and reach thousands of people in order for you to have purpose, meaning, contribution. You don't have to be a founder of some major company, that's a $1 company and it's affecting the world in order to be making a substantial contribution. So I want us to always remember that our contributions always look different because we are all uniquely designed. And so it is going to look different. Another kind of hallmark point of evidence as to why we're not designed to just have this 4-hour work week and sit on our, sit on our laurels and relax or just play golf all day is that our brains are designed with plasticity. They're designed to actually move and do things and grow and expand and develop. Our brains aren't designed to be like, okay, cool, we reached this moment, let's check out. That's when our brain and our physical muscles actually atrophy away. They start eroding. They just start deteriorating and shrinking. And so our brain is designed for the stimulation that comes with building something and not with sitting around too much in the state of relaxation. And then finally, we're not just driven by a need for survival. We actually have a drive that is to create. Now, my belief system, I believe God created things, and in my Bible it says we are created in the image of God. So if God is a creator, then we too are creators. We're designed. We're already like hardwired with this creation. Now, whether that's I'm creating in the kitchen and you're creating with numbers on a spreadsheet, like everyone's creation, again, is going to be unique to them. So, wow, this could be a challenge. Why are we chasing this 4-hour work week? There's a very clear reason, in my opinion, why so many people want that 4-hour work week, why they feel like they need to be working less. And there are two points that I wrote down here. And the first one is that we're not building what we want. And so we want to leave. Let's just think about this. You're in a great position at your job. You've been there for a while. And it's not you're building someone else's wish. It's not yours. But you're staying there because it's comfortable. It provides for its it's truly means to an end. I'm here because I am compensated. And I'm getting the medical benefits. I'm adding to my 401k, and I have a paycheck. Like check. Okay, and so we're just simply going through the motions of life. And oh gosh, man, conscious investor. That just sounds like Matrix. It sounds like we just plugged into the system, and we're selling our souls. We're selling our wishes. Here's the other thing: we're exhausted because we're at the wrong seat and or at the wrong table. And I think this right here, paired with that first one, if that first one that we're building, that we're not building what we want, so we want to leave and work less, we feel like we need to be on permanent retirement mode or permanent vacay mode. But here's the thing: being at the wrong seat and at the wrong table. Let's break that apart. So if I'm at the wrong seat, let's just picture the boardroom. Maybe your current position has you in the center of the table. And that's actually not your zone of genius, but that was a job that was available. You needed a job. You got that. You landed that position, or you worked your way up and that position opened up and you're like, it's not my favorite position, but I don't want to stay here all the time. And I'm going to make this, move into this different department so that I can, advance my career, increase my income, right? We know how the game is played. So here you are, and we're going to put you at one of the center seats on the oval boardroom table. You're not at the end. You're not the chairman. You're just somewhere in the middle there, but you're in the leadership, and you're there, and you're well compensated. But that position is not satisfying to you because it's not in alignment. It's not in congruence with who you are and what you are created to contribute and build in this world. So it's never going to feel satisfying. Again, going back to the junk food, it's the difference between, eating a bag of sour cream and onion Lay's chips, ask me how I know, and having a really great, chicken salad or steak, right, with some vegetables and such. Like there's a big difference in how this is going to nurture you. And so you're just simply filling in. It's just a filler. And I know a lot of you conscious investors, you don't want fillers in your foods, but we're putting fillers in our lives. What gives with that? We've got to be wide-eyed and aware. So we might be at the wrong seat, which means that position isn't tapping into our gifts. And if we're not utilizing those gifts that we were created with, they want to come out, they want to be used. And when we're not doing that, we don't feel fulfillment and satisfaction. Maybe that lands for you. Here's the other thing. Remember, I said, well, let me also talk about wrong position. This could also be an indicator that you need to be in a different chair, different departments, or maybe it needs to be your company. Maybe you need to be the chairman. Maybe you need to be the leader, the founder, the person at the helm of the ship. Maybe you need to be in a different department. So the wrong seat can mean a lot of things. It could be this isn't aligned with my skills, gifts, and aptitudes. And so I just simply need to figure out what's the right seat at this table for me. That might require that you take a little hit on your salary, but is ultimately going to land you in a place to where now you don't feel like you have to have a 4-hour work week. Work is no longer a place where it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I got to go work for the man. Like, work should not feel like that. Work should feel like work, but work can also be satisfying and fulfilling. Now, we can also simply be at the wrong table. So that wrong table could be we're misaligned with the company that we're working for, and it is completely thwarting us. It is suffocating us. And so at that point, we need to just have that like honest conversation with ourselves and say, is this the right company for me to be working for? And there is a cost to all of this. Now, we're conditioned to think in dollars and cents, but there are other costs that you must account for, because the time that you are spending working at the wrong company in the wrong position, that is time lost that you can never regain. Imagine that. Let that soak in. If you're going to sink 20 years into a company, that's 20 years you cannot get back. If you're going to sink, the next 7 years, and I'm just going to stick with this company for another 7 years, and it's misaligned and it's thwarting you, there is a cost to that. So you want to weigh out the costs, not just financially, but what's the cost of my time? And what is this doing in my life? How is this helping me show up to the world in vibrancy? Now, there are going to be times, conscious investor, where sometimes we just have to do the job. Like, I am not in a position where I can, transfer to a different department. I'm not in a position where the job market isn't working out right now. So I don't want to lose this position and compromise, the financial security for my family. In that case, then we can start thinking about what are the underlying things that I can do to bring energy and vitality into this position. So there are other ways. That would be a completely different episode or a conversation. So feel free to reach out and schedule some time on the calendar. So I want you to think, am I trying to work less really because I'm just at the wrong seat or I'm at the wrong table? And then what do we do about this? Well, like we said in this already, we're going to be honest with ourselves about the situation, but we really have to take the time to get in tune with our deeper desire. So it's really easy to be frustrated and I don't want to work here anymore. My boss is such a jerk. Like, this company is corrupt, or we can really have a tarnished, tainted view of where we are just because we are not being nurtured on the deeper levels. And so we need to understand that we don't just want to come at it from a defensive position of bad, bad, bad. We also need to say, well, what would good look like? Because it's so easy to stay in our crocodile brain and point the finger and say, this is all bad. When in reality, we need to say, well, what would it look like if this environment was healthy? What would that look like? And within that, what do I have control over? Can I bring any of that in my department? Can I start planting those seeds right now? So we want to not focus on what's wrong. Yes, recognize what is wrong. But if we're going to stay there, then we're playing the role of a victim. And conscious investor, you and I are not victims. We know how to design our lives, and so we're going to take those areas that we can see these areas need improvement, and we're going to say, what would that look like? What would this look like in my life? We also want to make sure we're getting in tune with our deeper desires. So often I'm working with coaching clients in a group setting or one-on-one. And in those conversations, I find that oftentimes initially clients are disconnected from their own desire. You've been in the trenches so long that you can't even recognize what's the difference. What is your desire? You've had to put it off and suppress it and say no to it for so long that you don't even know what it is any longer. And so we have to reconnect with that desire. Once we connect with that desire, now we want to create a roadmap, and we want to actually see, what actions can I take in a very practical, tangible way that are going to advance this through smaller actions so that I'm affecting change. So maybe we don't need to work a 4-hour work week, right? Maybe we simply need to recalibrate for where we are. Maybe we need to accept that different position at the table. Maybe we need to unearth the courage to step in and create a table of our own. And there are so many ways to do that, to scaffold that in. Also, ways that we can sample that before making a massive transition in our life. So, conscious investor, if this is for you, if this has served you, leave an honest rating and review. Let me know. And most importantly, as you are contemplating this, if you need support, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can reach me at julie@julieholly.com. And let me know in the subject line what episode this was that you were listening to that stood out to you. And so I don't want you to be a stranger. I'm not here creating these podcast episodes just to create podcast episodes. I'm creating these podcast episodes for you. If you need support via coaching, if you need support in your investing, please reach out to me directly. julie@julieholly.com. You can schedule time on my calendar at 3keysinvestments.com. That's all spelled out. We should have the other regular websites up soon, but I know that calendar works for certain. Also, final request before we part ways for this week, Conscious Investor. This podcast grows because of you. And it's really exciting when the numbers shift, because I know that they're shifting organically. I know that it's not shifting because I'm throwing money into some type of, I don't even know what they are because I don't do it. But so there are ways you can throw money and you can get pseudo followers and things like that. I'm not doing that. I'm not playing that game. I just like to play the game of life. I don't like those games. And so, would you support the show? Would you share this show with one person? It could be this episode. It might be a different episode. It could be a guest episode. But when we link together as conscious investors and we share the show with somebody, we double the footprint overnight. And that's organic. That's real. And when we do that, it's not about, we've got to get more numbers to get more numbers. That, again, is just going through motions, and that's senseless. No, when we grow the show together, that allows us to reach and impact more lives. I think more and more people need the messages that come on the Conscious Investor podcast as encouragement and support for their lives. And when we grow that, we get to impact more lives. And you and I, we both get to be part of that. So we're co-creating this together. We're co-growing the show together. I cannot do this without your support. So thank you so much for your support, Conscious Investor. And until next time, live in the fullness of your freedom.